Did you know that one black woman from Dallas built a billion-dollar company in the city starting with just $1,500 and a folding table? But that's just one out of 8 crazy stories we'll be exploring today, as we embark on this jaw-dropping countdown of the richest black women who practically own Dallas. These are the empires spanning tech unicorns, NBA franchises, global beauty brands, and a faith dynasty so powerful it generates $100 million in economic impact for the state of Texas in a single year. Let's count them down. Number 8. Piersten Gaines, the Wharton graduate who got Naomi Osaka to bet on her blowout bar. Before we even start, here's an interesting question. How do you convince some of the most discerning investors on the planet to put money into a hair salon? The answer, if you're Piersten Gaines, is that you don't pitch a hair salon, you pitch a scalable, technology-integrated luxury service model that happens to specialize in silk blowouts for textured hair. And then Naomi Osaka, Howard Schultz, and Meg Whitman write you a check. Gaines is a Dallas native and Wharton School alumna who came back home after building her credentials on the East Coast and identified something that the express beauty industry had been almost comically ignoring. Black women with natural and textured hair had zero access to high-end, fast-service styling that actually worked for their hair type. So in 2023, a year when total venture capital funding for black entrepreneurs dropped by 0.13%, which is already a devastating starting number, she launched Pressed Roots in the Trinity Groves neighborhood and closed a $3.1 million seed round against that headwind. The cap table alone tells a story. Tennis icon Naomi Osaka, former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz, eBay's Meg Whitman. These are not people who write checks out of charity or optics. They invest in things they believe will scale. And Gaines structured Pressed Roots from day one as exactly that kind of company, applying a Wharton-level operational rigor to an industry that often gets dismissed as too niche by traditional investors. She overprepared. She led with data. She built projections that left no room for skepticism, because she knew the room she was walking into wouldn't give her the benefit of the doubt. Her personal net worth is currently tied to her company's valuation rather than liquidated wealth. But given the caliber of her backers and her market timing, Dallas has one of the highest densities of affluent black professionals of any city in the country. The trajectory here is genuinely exciting to watch. Among millennial and Gen Z professionals in Dallas, she's already a symbol of what the Wharton to wealth pipeline looks like when it runs back home instead of to Wall Street. The interesting question Gaines' story raises is one that threads through this entire list. What happens when the people with the credentials and the vision stop leaving and start building right here? Dallas, it turns out, has a very compelling answer. But before we get there, let's talk about a woman who built an empire so distinctly her own that even the name on her birth certificate couldn't contain it. Number 7. Erykah Badu, the neo-soul queen, running a wellness empire from South Dallas. Erykah Badu was born Erykah Abby Wright in Dallas in 1971, and at some point she decided that the name she was given didn't reflect who she was becoming, so she changed it. Erykah because it felt right. Badu after a jazz scat sound that resonated with her. In a culture that constantly tells black women to shrink, rename, and conform, that decision was its own kind of declaration of independence. And she's been making declarations like that ever since. Most people clock Badu as a 4-time Grammy Award-winning artist, which is accurate but also incomplete. Her debut album Baduism went triple platinum, over 3 million copies sold in the US alone. Live went double platinum. Mama's Gun hit platinum. She's maintained consistent revenue through worldwide touring and her own label, Control Freak, for nearly 3 decades. That catalog is the financial bedrock. But what sits on top of it is where things get genuinely interesting. The Badu World Market is her e-commerce platform, and it sells, to put it gently, a very Erykah Badu range of things. Apothecary products, high-fashion apparel, incense. Items that reflect the specific aesthetic universe she's built, which sits somewhere between neo-soul goddess and avant-garde wellness practitioner. It shouldn't work as a retail model, and yet it does, because her audience doesn't just listen to her music. They've adopted her as a cultural reference point, a lifestyle orientation, a way of seeing the world. That kind of brand loyalty is worth more than any ad campaign. She owns a Dallas estate valued at over $1.2 million that doubles as a backdrop for her digital media work and community initiatives. And then there's the doula practice. Yes, Erykah Badu is a certified celebrity doula who has assisted at the births of several high-profile children. Think about what that means for a second. She has been in the delivery room for some of the most private, vulnerable moments in the lives of people who are otherwise surrounded by security and publicists. That's a level of trust that no amount of streaming revenue can buy. She graduated from Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts right here in Dallas, stayed local while the world came to her, and has spent decades investing in South Dallas infrastructure and mentoring young artists. She didn't leave to become herself. She became herself here, and the city is richer for it, literally and culturally. Number 6. Mahisha Dellinger. $40,000, constant rejection, and a global hair empire. Here's a number that seems almost impossible once you know what it became. $40,000. That's what Mahisha Dellinger had when she launched Curls in 2002. A personal investment, no outside capital, no institutional backing, just a product she believed in and a market she could see that everyone else was pretending didn't exist. The natural hair care market for Black women in 2002 was not being served by mainstream beauty brands. The shelves were full of products formulated for straight hair, marketed to a generalized idea of all hair types that functionally excluded the curl patterns and textures of most Black women. Dellinger saw the gap, filled it, and then spent years fighting to get the products onto the shelves of retailers who couldn't quite conceptualize why it mattered. She faced constant rejection from white corporate buyers. She heard no so many times that most founders would have pivoted or quit. She kept going. Today, Curls sits in every major U.S. retailer: Target, Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Sally Beauty. And in 2021, Dellinger executed a partnership with Beauty by Imagination, the company behind Wetbrush and Goody, that gave her the global distribution infrastructure of a conglomerate while she retained majority control of her brand. That deal was the masterstroke. She got the scale without surrendering the ownership, which is the negotiation that most founders lose. She's a long-term Dallas resident who built her company using the city's logistics and retail infrastructure, and she's now actively working to ensure her success story doesn't stay singular. Her Black women making millions. Academy has provided $450 million worth of resources and training to 25,000 Black women entrepreneurs, specifically focused on helping women-led businesses cross the $1 million revenue threshold. The show Mind Your Business with Mahisha on OWN gave her a national platform to normalize what that kind of wealth building actually looks like. The rejections, the self-doubt, the years where the gap between vision and reality is uncomfortable to sit with. She moved from a crime-ridden neighborhood to the top of a global industry, and instead of quietly enjoying the view from up there, she turned around and started building ladders. That's the Dallas story at its best. Number 5. Cynt Marshall. The woman who was handed the Dallas Mavericks and actually fixed them. In 2018, the Dallas Mavericks were in crisis. A Sports Illustrated investigation had exposed a deeply toxic workplace culture inside the organization. Harassment, misconduct, systemic failures of leadership. Mark Cuban, the owner, needed someone who could actually fix it, not just manage the optics. The person he called was Cynt Marshall, and the move made history. She became the first African-American female CEO in NBA history. Let that land for a second. The NBA, one of the most visible, most financially scrutinized sports leagues on the planet, had never had a Black woman running a franchise. Not once in its entire history. Marshall became that first. Her path to that moment ran through 36 years at AT&T, where she rose to senior vice president, and through a personal crucible that most executives never mention in their professional bios. A colon cancer diagnosis that she survived, and that fundamentally reshaped how she thought about leadership and legacy. She grew up in public housing in Richmond, California, earned her way to UC Berkeley, and spent nearly 4 decades mastering corporate restructuring before applying that expertise to one of the most high-profile organizational turnarounds in sports business history. What she built at the Mavericks is described by Dallas business observers as a masterclass in corporate restructuring, overhauling internal culture, rebuilding trust, and repositioning the franchise as a model organization rather than a cautionary tale. Her net worth is estimated at approximately $16 million as of 2024, a figure that includes her executive compensation, board positions, including Chime Financial Inc., where she holds shares valued at over $737,000, and premium speaking fees for her work on DEI and workplace culture. In Dallas, she's not just an executive, she's a civic hero, the kind of figure whose presence at a Mavericks game or a business summit carries genuine weight. She earned that standing by doing the thing that most people talk about doing, walking into a broken institution and actually making it better. Number 4. Serita Jakes Roberts, teen mom to $9.5 million. Revenue CEO. The most unlikely faith empire in Dallas. What does it take to turn the worst, most public chapter of your life into the foundation of a global brand? Serita Jakes Roberts has a very specific and very hard-won answer to that question, and it has generated $9.58 million in organizational revenue in a single fiscal year. Roberts is the daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes, one of the most recognizable names in American Christianity, which meant that when she became a teen mother at 13, it happened under an unusually bright spotlight. That kind of public scrutiny would bury most people. Instead, Roberts did something much harder. She worked through it, rebuilt herself, and then turned her evolution story into the entire brand architecture of Woman Evolve Inc. The numbers behind Woman Evolve are genuinely striking for what most observers would categorize as a faith-based organization. Total revenue in 2024 hit $9,577,581, up from $550,646 at inception in 2019. The 2024 Woman Evolve Conference pulled over 40,000 attendees and is projected to carry a total economic impact of $100 million for the state of Texas. Her books consistently appear on the New York Times bestseller list. Her podcasts and digital content platform are scaling into a full creator-led media enterprise. She recently collaborated with Wells Fargo to launch a $75,000 pitch competition for small business owners, which positions her not just as a faith leader, but as a player in the broader Dallas entrepreneurship ecosystem. She co-pastors a campus of the Potter's House, her father's legendary church, and lives in the DFW area, keeping her roots firmly local while the reach of her brand extends globally. The through line of everything Roberts has built is the idea that your worst moment is not your defining moment, unless you decide it is. For tens of millions of followers, that message lands because she didn't just say it. She lived it publicly and built a company around the proof. Here's what's worth asking. At what point does faith-based business become too small a category for what Serita Jakes Roberts has built? Because $9.5 million in revenue and $100 million conference economic impact is not a ministry. That's a media and events empire that happens to have a spiritual mission. The distinction matters, and Dallas understands it. Number 3. Iman Abuzeid, the Sudanese physician who built a $1.65 billion AI company to fix America's nursing crisis. Dr. Iman Abuzeid is a Sudanese-American physician who looked at the nursing shortage in the United States, a genuine crisis-level failure of the healthcare system, and decided that the most effective solution was a technology company, not a policy paper, not a nonprofit. A venture-backed AI-native platform that would fundamentally change how nurses and hospitals find each other. In 2022, that company, Incredible Health, hit a $1.65 billion valuation and became a unicorn. Her backstory is the kind that reads like it was engineered for maximum improbability. She earned her medical degree in London, her MBA from Wharton, then worked at McKinsey before co-founding Incredible Health, because apparently one elite credential wasn't enough of a foundation. Her 2024 Forbes estimated net worth of $350 million makes her the wealthiest self-made black woman in the North Texas Technology Corridor, and her platform's footprint in Dallas is substantial. Hundreds of hospitals in the region, including Baylor Scott and White and HCA, use Incredible Health to staff their nursing departments. The mechanics of what her platform actually does are worth understanding because they explain why the valuation makes sense. Hiring a nurse through traditional channels takes an average of 86 days. Incredible Health's AI agents, named Gail and Lynn, reduce that timeline to under 20 days. For a Dallas area health system, that difference translates to an average savings of $2 million per year in overtime and travel nurse costs. The product doesn't just work better than the alternative. It works better in a way that's directly measurable in dollars saved, which is exactly the kind of ROI that justifies a billion-dollar valuation to institutional investors. She was named to Time magazine's Time 100 Next list in 2024, which tracks the emerging leaders most likely to shape the future. In Dallas, she represents the intersection of healthcare and technology that is increasingly defining the city's post-pandemic economic identity. And she got here the old-fashioned way, by identifying a real problem, building a real solution, and refusing to let anyone tell her that a Sudanese physician wasn't the person for the job. Number 2. Janice Bryant Howroyd. Started with $1,500. Built the first black woman-owned billion-dollar company in America. At some point in 1978, Janice Bryant Howroyd sat down with $1,500, borrowed from her mother, a single fax machine, and the conviction that she could build something meaningful in the staffing and workforce industry. She was not yet 30. She had no investors, no institutional backing, no corporate infrastructure. What she had was a belief that the way companies hired people was fundamentally broken, and that treating human beings with dignity in the hiring process was not just the right thing to do, it was good business. She was right, and the proof is that Actone Group, her company, is now the largest privately held, minority woman-owned personnel firm in the world. Operations in 33 countries. Over 17,000 clients, including a significant concentration of the Fortune 500 companies headquartered in Dallas. Her subsidiary brands, Apple One, Agile One, have become the backbone of workforce solutions for the North Texas corporate ecosystem, which is one of the most active corporate relocation markets in the United States. Howroyd holds the distinction of being the first black woman in American history to build and own a billion-dollar company. Not the first in her industry, not the first in her state, the first, full stop, in the entire country. Her company consistently generates over $1 billion in annual revenue, and her personal net worth is estimated in the hundreds of millions. Her success story carries a specific weight because of where it started. She was one of the first black students to attend her town's newly desegregated high school in North Carolina, a formative experience that she has said taught her the true value of humanity in HR. She was navigating systems that were explicitly designed to exclude her before she ever wrote her first business plan. That context matters when you understand what she built, because she didn't just build a company. She built a proof of concept for what becomes possible when the barriers are moved. President Obama appointed her to serve in the White House. She's authored business strategy books, including The Art of Work. Her family holds more than a dozen commercial and residential properties across the country. She speaks at Dallas business summits with the authority of someone who's not theorizing about wealth creation. She is the evidence. And yet, for all of Janice Bryant Howroyd's extraordinary accomplishments, the woman sitting at number 1 on this list has built something that no net worth figure can fully describe. Because what she's built isn't just wealth, it's a dynasty. And in Dallas, dynasties outlast everything. Number 1, Serita Jakes, the Queen of Dallas, wealth, and why this number 1 isn't about the number. Here's a fair question before we crown this list. Why is Serita Jakes at number 1? Her personal net worth, estimated at $15 million, is lower than several women we've already covered. Iman Abuzeid's $350 million dwarfs it. Janice Bryant. Howroyd's company generates $1 billion in annual revenue. So what makes Serita Jakes the wealthiest black woman who owns Dallas? The answer is that wealth at its highest expression, isn't just money. It's institutional control. It's generational transfer. It's the ability to shape a city's identity from the inside out, across decades, in a way that outlasts any single business cycle or valuation round. By that measure, Serita Jakes has no competition on this list, and possibly not many rivals in the entire country. She is the matriarch of the T.D. Jakes Group, a dynastic operation that spans media, real estate, publishing, film production, and the most recognizable Black megachurch in the world, the Potter's House in Dallas. That institution alone is the epicenter of what has become the most influential Black faith and finance ecosystem in America. And the conferences it hosts, including Women Evolve, led by her daughter Sarah, are forecasted to generate over $100 million in economic impact for the state of Texas in 2024 alone. That's one family's platform, one church, one ecosystem that Serita has stood at the center of for decades. Think about what it means to build that kind of institution in a city like Dallas, which does not offer its respect easily or quickly. The Jakes family didn't inherit that standing. They built it, service by service, program by program, relationship by relationship, over a span of decades that required a consistency of vision that is genuinely rare at any level of American public life. Serita has been the quiet architectural force behind that consistency, the person who ensured that the family's wealth of influence was transferred to the next generation with intentionality rather than accident. The rumors, the tabloid whispers, the false claims about the family's finances and personal life. She has met all of it with what Dallas insiders describe as unshakable poise. Because when you've built something real, the noise around it doesn't threaten the structure. It just proves how much attention the structure commands. She and Bishop Jakes operate from a massive estate in the Fort Worth, Dallas corridor, traveling globally via private aviation to manage an empire that now extends into her children's ventures. Sarah's Women Evolve, the broader media and publishing operations, ensuring that the Jakes brand remains a multi-generational force rather than a single-generation phenomenon. That is the rarest form of wealth creation, the kind you successfully hand forward. In Dallas, where results are the only currency that matters in the long run, Serita Jakes wears the crown. Not loudly, not performatively, but unmistakably, in the way that institutions she helped build are still standing, still growing, and still defining what Black excellence looks like in one of the most powerful cities in America. 8 women. 8 completely different definitions of what it means to own your place in a city. From Piersten Gaines, closing a seed round against impossible odds, to Serita Jakes, building a dynasty that measures its impact in generations, Dallas has been the proving ground, the canvas, and the reward all at once. The question worth taking with you after watching this isn't who's richest. It's what kind of wealth you're actually trying to build. And there you have it. 8 richest Black women from Dallas who own the city's economy. Which one of these money moguls impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments. And for more such interesting peeks into how Black wealth is prospering across the globe, take a look at Black Status.